Okay, this first one we're going to do is your directions were to solve each equation and then to remember to check for extraneous solutions. Extraneous solutions means that you could work all the way through a problem, get two answers, but maybe only one of them will work, none of them will work, or both can work. So you just want to make sure when you're solving radical equations that you make sure and check all your answers at the very end so that you know if you have the right answers or not. The one thing about radical equations is that sometimes you throw a square root in or even a square in to get rid of the radical, and it ends up changing the entire problem. So I'm going to walk you through this first one. Number 2 is pretty similar to it. So once I walk you through number 1, if you're still having problems, you can let me know and we'll walk through another one. The goal for solving these radical equations is really to isolate the radical onto one side. You want to do that so that you can square or get rid of the square root. So I like to ask my kids, what undoes multiplication? Okay, division. How about addition? Subtraction. So as we've learned through our different math classes, we know that in order to get rid of a square, so to get rid of x squared, you would take the square root of it. So we're going to do the same thing here. In a different color, what you want to do to get rid of this square root right here is to go ahead and square both sides. Okay, this is going to undo the radical here. And what you do to one side, remember, you have to always do to the other. You have to balance the equation. So just like when we were doing linear, when you would subtract 1, say 2 from both sides, you have to do the same thing here. So 1 squared is equal to 1, and that's equal to, well, this square undoes this radical, so then we're left with whatever's underneath it. You don't have to square the 4 and the m because they're kind of protected by this house right here, which is what's undoing by the square. So we're left with 4 minus m. Okay, at this point it looks like a pretty familiar linear equation. What I want to do, because I see that this is negative here, I'm going to add m to the other side. So I have m is equal to, and I'm going to subtract 1. Okay, it's positive here, so I have to subtract. So 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. Okay, so I have my answer of m is equal to 3, but what you need to do is plug it back into the original equation. So what's in black up here? So what I need to plug it in is for this m, so I need to say 4 minus 3. Okay, that's 1 underneath the radical. What's the square root of 1? I hope you said 1, which is what we have this set equal to, so we do know that this does work. Okay, on to the next one. This one is number 3 on your worksheet. I know you said you had done 1 through 4, but I just want to make sure that we're doing these right. So the first thing you want to try and do is to isolate this radical here so that we can square both sides. But what do I need to do first? Okay, I need to subtract or add this negative 6. So I have a negative 6, I need to take it to the other side, so I'm going to add. So 3 plus 6 is equal to 9. So what's left on the right-hand side is the square root of v minus 10. Okay, so this looks really similar to number 1. So what do you have to do to both sides? Okay, I hope you said square it. So we're going to square 9, and we're going to square square root of v minus 10. So on the left-hand side, let's just go ahead and work that out. So 9 squared is equal to 81. And that's equal to, okay, well, what's left on this side? So we're squaring a square root. Okay, that's v minus 10. Okay, so we're just going to solve it. So now you have to add 10 to both sides. So we have 91 is equal to v. Are we finished? No, we need to check for extraneous solutions. So where are you going to plug this into? Let's think about it. Am I going to plug it in here? Okay, no. How about the blue part? No, because it's still not my original equation. So I'm going to plug it in up here. I'm just going to kind of work through it. So let's see, 91 minus 10. Okay, well that's the square root of 81. The square root of 81 is equal to 9. So negative 6 plus 9 is equal to 3. So I don't know what your teacher has asked for you to do, but what you would need to do down here is to go ahead and check it off that you have checked for extraneous solution. Okay, this is number 4. I'm going to work through it step by step, and I'm going to ask you questions along the way to make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, what do you need to do to both sides? So we said square it. So on the left-hand side, go ahead and write down what you're left with. Okay, it should be negative 54 plus 15n, and that's going to equal n squared. Okay, this one's a little bit different because we have an n squared on one side and we have an n on the other with a number or the constant. This is one that you have to recognize that you're going to have to factor it because we can't just solve linearly like we have been doing. So what I recommend doing is keeping your leading coefficient or the number in front of the squared term positive. So I'm going to subtract negative, or I'm going to add 54 and subtract 15n. So I'm left with 0 is equal to n squared minus 15n plus 54. Okay, this is one that you have to factor. So you need to think of two numbers that multiply to give you 54 and add together to give you a negative 15. So if you're having trouble with that, you're just going to write factors of 54 over here. So let's think about it. Okay, well 2, it's probably not going to give you a big enough number. How about 54 divided by 9? Okay, well I see 9 and 6. Is there any combination that's going to leave me to a negative 15? Okay, well I can see that if I make them both negative, when I multiply I'm going to get a positive 64, and when I add I'm going to get a negative 15. So those are my two factors. So n minus 9 and n minus 6. If you're still having trouble with these signs, the second sign, if it's positive or a plus sign, always tells you that they're going to be the same in your factors. And this first sign here would tell you that they're both negative. So they're both the same and they're both negative. Okay, after that, you're just going to solve. So you're going to set each of them equal to 0. So 0 is equal to n minus 9, and 0 is equal to n minus 6. Some students don't have to show this step because they can clearly see that if you set them both equal to 0, that you're going to just get the opposite of whatever's inside the parentheses. So n right here is equal to 9, and n right here is equal to 6. Okay, am I finished? No, you need to check these. So I'm just going to leave you to check those by yourself. Remember, you're going to plug it into the original equation, which is what's in black up here. So why don't you go ahead and do that, and I'm going to stop this so that I can make it a smaller file.